Welcome to Drive the Daf. Clear, structured explanation of the daily Daf in 20 minutes. You can even follow in the car.
Pesachim Daf continues the analysis of the Mishnah about somebody who travels from one town to another town, and the two towns have different halachos. Which halachos are he supposed to keep, and where do we have a problem of machlokes? So the Gemara first discusses somebody who traveled from a town which did not keep Yom Tov Sheni to a town which did keep Yom Tov Sheni, and what penalty he had. Then the Gemara analyzes the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda as far as the halachos of biur, of removing Shemitah fruits from your property within the 8th year. The Gemara will have many different explanations of what Rabbi Yehuda's statement in the Mishnah is, and this will take us further into a discussion of halachos biur and where you have to go with your fruits when they require biur. So first of all, the Gemara says that Rabbi Nasan bar Asya traveled from the yeshiva of Rav to Pumbedisa. And that means that he arrived on Yom Tov Sheni. On Yom Tov Sheni he arrived, and that means he was traveling on Yom Tov Sheni as a violation of Yom Tov. Even though he didn't hold of a Yom Tov, but in that town they did. So Rav Yosef was there, and Rav Yosef put him in a chayrim. So Abaye said, why are you putting him in chayrim? You should give him malchus. Look what he did, he violated Yom Tov. So Rav Yosef said to him, putting him in chayrim is worse, because in Eretz Yisrael, when they want to punish somebody, they vote, and they apply the punishment of malchus, but they don't vote and apply the punishment of chayrim. They don't put somebody in excommunication by vote. Now, there's a machlokes rishonim how this is understood. Rashi understands that to put somebody in chayrim, if he was a Talmud Chacham, it's considered to be too great an insult. So, because of kavod HaTorah, they didn't do that. They preferred to give malchus, and therefore, you see from that the punishment of chayrim is considered worse than the punishment of malchus, and Rav Yosef therefore says, I gave him a worse punishment. There's a different version of this whole story, which has it flipped to some extent. The same principles of stringencies apply. According to this version, Rabbi Yosef actually gave him malchus, and Abaye asked, why don't you put him in chayrim? Shmuel and Rav both say that the halacha is somebody who violates Yom Tov Sheni is supposed to be put into chayrim, so you should have given him chayrim. So that he said, that's only talking about a regular person that you would put him into chayrim, but a Talmud Chacham, you don't put him in chayrim because, again, kavod HaTorah, the insult of chayrim is considered to be too great. Okay, now the Gemara quotes the statement of Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah, and the Gemara wants to analyze what Rabbi Yehuda holds exactly. And the Mishnah at the end discusses the halacha of biur. The halacha is that in the year after Shemitah, the fruits which you have in your house from Shemitah produce, you're allowed to keep them in your house as long as they're still available in the field so that the animals in the field can eat them. Once they're not available in the field anymore, they aren't existing wild, and the animals in the field cannot get to them, then you have to take them out of your house. You have to be mafker them. That's called biur. You have to remove them from your house. Once you make them mafker, then you can take them back into your house. You can be a kona them. You can acquire them the same as everyone else. But the mitzvah of biur says you have to get rid of it once it's not available for the animals anymore. Now this changes based on the place. You could have certain areas where the fruits are still available in the field, and therefore you're still permitted to keep them in your house, and other areas where they have already become no longer available in the field, and you can't keep them in your house. So the Mishnah talks about somebody who travels from one place to another, from a place that has fruits to a place which doesn't have fruits, or vice versa. And obviously in the place which didn't have fruits, there's a chiyuv biur. In the place which did have fruits, there is no chiyuv biur anymore. So the Mishnah had said you got to keep the chumras of both, and therefore you have to do biur either way. Rabbi Yehuda had said that he'll say to them, why don't you go look for fruits yourself, you'll find it yourself. So Gemara's understanding that Rabbi Yehuda is saying that you traveled from a place that has fruits to a place which does not have fruits, and here the local people have to do biur, and he should also not be allowed to eat these fruits because he's in the place where he's arrived and there's no fruits here. And the implication is that Rabbi Yehuda can say to them, why don't you go back to where I came from? You go, where I came from, there's plenty of fruits. You don't have fruits, so you have to get rid of your fruits. Fine, you have to do biur, I understand. But if you would be like me, you would also have fruits. Back where I come from, we had fruits. So it's not a problem. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not making a machlokes with you. I'm not fighting with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I hold just like you. The thing is, in my place, they have fruits. In this place, they do not have fruits. Now, the Gemara asks, how could Rabbi Yehuda say that? Even if there's no machlokes that's being created, still we have a rule. You have to keep the chumras, the stringent halachas, in the place that you're arriving. So he should have to keep the halachas of biur in this place that he's getting to. So the Gemaras are going to have a lot of varying explanations as to what Rabbi Yehuda means over here. First explanation is of Shisha Breder Avidi, who says we're talking about where he traveled from place to place, and in both places there were fruits available. There's no problem. But then he heard that back in his old town, the fruits already finished over there. But he had left there before they finished. Therefore, the rule that you got to keep the chumras of the place you come to and the place which you came from doesn't apply to him, because when he left, they still had fruits, and in the place where he's arriving, they still have fruits. So the Tanna Kama had said that he has to get rid of the fruits, because back in his old town, there aren't fruits anymore, and he has to keep that chumrah. He just says, no, why should I say that? He should be able to say to the people in his old town, he should say, when I was there, we had fruits. I could have gone out to the fields and I could find them. Shouldn't be a problem. Says the Gemara, this all implies that Rabbi Yehuda has a more lenient opinion. He's saying that even though the fruit's finished in my old town, I still am allowed to eat them. I don't have to do beer. The Gemara says, but Rabbi Elazar says, I have a Messiah, that Rabbi Yehuda is the machmir here. Whatever he's saying, he's taking a more stringent approach. So how does this fit? So the Gemara says, okay, fine, so we'll switch the opinions. The Tanna Kama is the one who said, I can still find the fruits. When I left the town, the fruits were still there. And Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says, no, you have to get rid of them because they're not available in your old town anymore. Says the Gemara, Abaye has a slightly different approach here. Abaye says, we're talking about somebody who traveled from a place which had fruits to a place which does not have fruits, and then he went back so now in his second leg of his journey, he's taking his fruits back now from a place which does not have fruits to a place which has fruits. Now he's coming from a place which does not have fruits. So according to the Tanna Kama, it's no problem. He started off in a place which has fruits, and he came back to the same place which has fruits. He stopped in the middle in a place which doesn't have fruits. No, not a problem. Rabbi Yehuda, however, says that we will say to him, can you go out in the field and get these fruits? Meaning the same expression, just it's said as a question instead of as a statement. Can you go out in the field and look for the fruits and try to find them? You won't find them. In the place that you're coming from, in your second leg of your journey, you're coming from a place that has no fruits to now our town which has fruits. So it's problematic. You could go out in the field and look, you won't find the fruits, therefore you shouldn't be allowed to keep the fields. And Rabbi Yehuda is being machmir and saying you have to keep the chumrah of that place that you stopped in the middle. So Gemara says, Rav Ashi said, how does this make sense? Just because he stopped in the middle, that makes him usher? What? He passed through the town with the fruits carried on the back of his chamar, so the donkey's back became the place where the fruits grow. That became the new halacha. He passed through. Why should that make a difference? So Rav Ashi says we're talking about a totally different halacha altogether. We're not talking about two places that grow. The discussion between the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yehuda in this last line was talking about where you have fruits that are preserved, that are stored, they are pickled together in a barrel. And we know there's a machlokes about fruits that are pickled together in a barrel. Do you have to be machmir and do beer on each fruit when its time comes, or could you go on the more lenient approach? There's actually three opinions. The Gemara quotes in Mishnah. Mishnah says, let's say you have three types of vegetables that you pickle together in a barrel. According to Rav Elazar, which when one of them becomes not available to the animals in the field, all of them become usher. You have to do beer on all three of them because they all pickled together. According to Rabbi Yeshua, you go by the last one. As long as one of them is still available, all of them are considered still available. According to Rabbi Gamliel, each one goes with its own time. When each vegetable is no longer available in the field, that's when you have to do beer on that one. So that means, leaving out the opinion of Rav Elazar, we're going to say that this machlokes is as follows. According to the opinion of the Tanna Kama, you could be lenient like Rabbi Yeshua, and you could say we wait until all three vegetables in the barrel have become not available in the field. That's when you have to do beer. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you have to be more machmir, and you say that when each specific vegetable is no longer available in the field, you have to do beer on that one. Why? Because we say, go look for them in the field. Will you find them? You will not find them, and therefore each one has its own halacha. It is done separately. Now, Ravina says they're actually arguing about a different thing, similar but different, and that is when the dates fall off the tree, they often get caught in the thorns at the bottom of the tree. The question is, what if the dates aren't on the tree anymore, but they are on the thorns at the bottom of the tree? They're out there in the field, but they're not really available. The animals can't eat it. They can't get to it from between the trees. So it's a machlokes between Tanna Kama and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel in a Mishnah whether that counts as they're being available or not. And that is the same machlokes over here. Tanna Kama says they're available, and therefore you can go get them. Rabbi Yehuda is machmir. Rabbi Yehuda says no, that's not called available. He will say, go get them from the field. Can you go get them? You cannot go get them. They're not considered available, and therefore you have to do beer at this time. The Gemara now goes more deeply into the halachos of biur and then some other halachos of shmita. So first of all, the halacha of biur that you have to remove the fruits from your house when it is not available to the animals in the field. How do you define field? Which fields? Is it the fields near you or the fields far away? What if it's not available near you, but it is available quite a distance from you? Does that mean you have to do biur? Now, is that called available? So the Gemara says that Eretz Yisrael is divided into three regions for that halacha. There's the region of Yehuda, which is the central Eretz Yisrael, is the region of the Galil, which is the north, and there is the region of Eva Yarden, which is across the Jordan River, the Golan, and the area of Jordan. So these three regions are separate. If anywhere within your region there exists fruits, you don't have to do biur. If your region is completely finished, then you do have to do biur, even if a neighboring nearby region has the fruits still. Now the Gemara says each region has three sub-regions. Those three sub-regions usually are separate as to when the fruits become not available. Each sub-region finishes at once, but the three sub-regions don't finish at the same time. But halachically, there's no difference. Halachically, if any sub-region still has fruits, then the entire larger region is permitted to have the fruits in the house. You don't have to do biur yet at that point. The Gemara says, what's the source for all this? The Gemara says, because we know that the pasuk says, as long as the animals, your animals are allowed to have it, as long as the wild animals in the field, ba'artzecha, in your lands, as long as they have it. So from the word ba'artzecha, in your lands, it has to be your region, it has to be an area where the wild animals near you can access it. And we know that the wild animals in each of these regions don't go to the other region. So if you're in the Galil, for example, the wild animals in the Galil will not go to Yehuda, or obviously to Evar Yarden, in order to get fruits in the field that are there. So as long as your region has, the animals have. As long as once your region finishes, the animals don't have, even if there are still fruits available elsewhere in the field. Says the Gemara, what happens if you actually take fruits out of Eretz Yisrael into Chutz La'aretz? Do you have to do biur where you are, or do you have to actually bring them back to Eretz Yisrael and do biur there? So the Gemara says this is a machlokes between Tanna Kama and Rav Shimon ben Elazar. According to the Tanna Kama, you're allowed to do them wherever you are. According to Shimon ben Elazar, you have to take them back to Eretz Yisrael. What's his source? The Gemara says it's from the word ba'artzecha. You have to do biur in your land. It says ba'artzecha. We just said ba'artzecha is used for something else. Ba'artzecha is used to teach you that the animals have to have it available in your region. So Gemara says the word ba'artzecha has multiple drashos available. First of all, it could have said la'aretz, ba'aretz, in the land. Why did it have to say ba'artzecha? That's to teach me an extra thing. First of all, the region, and second of all, your region, that we divide the regions up into separate zones. Says Gemara. Another answer, it says asher ba'artzecha, and that's two drashos. One is ba'artzecha, one is the asher of the ba'artzecha. Those are two separate drashos for these two halachos. Now, on the subject of taking back fruits from Chutz La'aretz Eretz Yisrael to do biur, the Gemara relates an incident. The Gemara says that Rav Safra traveled out of Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, and he had with him two people he had Rav Huna Beit Ravika and Rav Kahana. They were both Talmidim of Rabbi Avo. When they were outside of Chutz La'aretz, Rav Safra had a bottle of Shemitah wine with him, and the time for biur came. We want to know, do I have to do biur here, or do I have to go back to Eretz Yisrael to do biur? So he asked the two people with him, do you know what Rabbi Avo holds? So they had opposite reports as to what Rabbi Avo holds. Rav Kahana said, Rabbi Avo said, Allah is like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, and you have to do it here. Rav Huda Beit Ravika said, Allah is not like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, and you, again, Rav Kahana said, the halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, and you have to go back to Eretz Yisrael. Rav Huna said, the halacha is not like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, and you could do biur here, you don't have to go back to Eretz Yisrael. So who is he supposed to paskin like? So Rav Safra said, well, Rav Huna knows the halacha from his Rebbe very well. He's very careful about his quotes, and therefore I'm going to go like Rav Huna. He's as careful as Rechava is. Rechava of Pumbedisa, who said over the name of Rav Yehuda that the design of Har HaBayis, he quoted his Rebbe. He was accurately and precisely able to describe Har HaBayis. The design of Har HaBayis had two rows of the benches, one within the other. So just like he described his Rebbe's words very well, also Rav Huna described Rabbi Yevo's words, well, so I'm going to Paskin like him, and I'm not going back to Eretz Yisrael. So now Rabbi Yosef referred to that, and he applied the pasuk which says, Ami be'etza yishol, my people asked for advice, umak lo yagidu lo, and his stick told him, but he read it as umekel lo yagidu lo. He who was lenient, that's the one who he listened to, noting that Rav Safra decided to listen to Rav Huna, who told him leniently, you could do beer here, you don't have to go back to do beer in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, another halacha in Shemitah, where it says that Rabbi Eloi cut down a fruit tree that had unripe fruits. It had very young, just growing fruits on it. And the Gemara asked, how is he allowed to do that to a Shemitah tree? The halacha is he only allowed to cut down fruits of Shemitah in order to eat. You're not allowed to cut down if they're going to be destroyed. So Gemara says, maybe you'll tell me that these don't count as fruit yet. They were too unripe, too young to be considered fruits. Gemara says, it's not true, because I'll show you a statement which considers unripe fruits to be fruits. It calls them fruits. What's that about? Talking about the peels, the husks that grow around certain fruits when they're unripe. When they grow up, they fall off. So Rav Nachman said in the name of Rabbi Bar Avua that those peels are considered to be arla. The halach of arla applies to them, even though they are just protecting the fruit. They're not actual fruits. You see, he calls them protecting the fruit, but it's only on the fruit when the fruit is young. Obviously, even when it's unripe, when it's too young, it's still called a fruit. That's why we're using the term protecting the fruit, even though it's not there when the fruit is fully grown. So Gemara says, so this was problematic then. So Gemara says, no, it's actually a machlokes tanoim, whether an unripe fruit is called a fruit or not. This statement of Rav Nachman is the opinion of Rabbi Yosi, who says clearly that Smadar is grapes when they have the blossoms on, then the blossoms just fall off, and the smallest size grape is already appearing. According to Rabbi Yosi, that's already called fruit, and the Isser Arla applies to it, and that's what Rav Nachman was saying, his quote, that unripe fruits are called fruits. However, Rabbi Eloi doesn't hold like Rabbi Yosi. He goes like the Rabbanan who argue, and they say that unripe fruits are not called fruits, and the Isser Arla does not apply. Says the Gemara, but that machlokes is only in grapes. But here, the tree that Rabbi Eloi cut down was not a grapevine. It was a different kind of tree. It was an olive tree. So there's no machlokes about olive trees. So how could you say that, it's a machlokes between Rabbi Eloi and Rav Nachman, is machlokes of Yosi and the Rabbanan? No such machlokes exists about olive trees. Now the Gemara is going to demonstrate that no such machlokes exists about olive trees, and it quotes a Mishnah which brings this machlokes in its entirety, but not in the name of Rabbi Yosi and the Rabbanan, but in the name of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. And it says as follows. When does Arla apply? So Beis Shammai says all trees from when the first shoots start growing, when the first leaves grow, that's when the Isser Arla applies. Beis Hillel says depends on the tree. Carob trees is when the first thin strips of carob start to appear and they look like roots. Grapevines is when you get the smallest size of bad quality grapes. Olives is when you get blossoms falling off. All of the trees go when the leaves fall out. Now, when we say grapevines is when it's a very small, bad level grape, so that term, girua, is interchangeable with the term boisar, blossoming, and with the term pulalavan, the size of a white bean. All these are interchangeable terms. And remember, when we discussed Rav Nachman's statement as to when we discussed Rav Yosi's statement as to when fruits are considered to be fruits, even in the unripe state, we had used the word smother. So we see that these are all the same. These are all the same level. They're all the same level of growth. And in this Mishnah, who is it that said, it was Beis Hillel who said that when it's small size grapes, that's considered to be fruit. Who holds that way? That must be Rabbi Yosi. So you see, this Beis Hillel is the opinion of Rabbi Yosi. They're the ones who say that small size grapes count as grapes. And Rabbi Yosi still says that all other trees, besides for grapes, follow the basic rules, the same rules as Beis Shammai said, that it grows by when the first shoots appear. The first leaves begin to grow. So you see, there's no machlokes about other trees. So how could you say that Rav Nachman and Rabbi Eloi are arguing about this machlokes? The type of tree that they were arguing about, this machlokes does not exist. It was not an olive tree that he cut down, it was a date tree, and therefore it's not one of the trees on the list over here. So the Gemara answers, we'll tell you a different answer. Rabbi Eloi was cutting down a male date tree as opposed to a female date tree. The good fruits grow from the females. The male trees, they only grow these tiny fruits. They never expand. All they do is ripen. What you do is you pick them up and you put them in a basket of date palm fronds, and they will ripen. But they're never going to grow any bigger. So therefore, it's no problem that he cut it down. He didn't destroy the fruits. The fruits weren't going to get any bigger.
Drive the Daf is a project of the Grand Woodlands Shul and is presented by Rabbi Yitzchak Landa. Find us on YouTube or subscribe to daily emails by emailing drivethedaf@gmail.com.